Paris's Champs-Elysees is at the center of the Olympics and has been long the gathering spot for the biggest moments in French life, from celebrations to protests to its signature sporting event. But many Parisians have fallen out of love with the Champs-Elysees. A new study says just 5% of those who visit each day are locals, compared to 100,000 tourists. But as I found out on a recent trip, there's a plan to attract Parisians back to a place that's captured the imagination of locals and visitors alike.
Oh, Champs-Elysees. Oh, Champs-Elysees.
As the American songwriter Joe Dassin wrote in his 1969 classic, "In the sun or the rain, at noon or at midnight, everything you could want is on the Champs-Elysees."
Oh, Champs-Elysees.
It's the famous French road in the heart of Paris, known as the most beautiful avenue in the world.
Oh, Champs-Elysees, ah, ah, ah. Oh, Champs-Elysees, you know it.
As chairman of the committee Champs-Elysees, it's Marc-Antoine Jamet's job to keep it that way.
Où est-ce que vous nous installez par hasard?
Bonjour. He took me on a walk to the classic French patisserie, La Durée,
3 or 4 chocolate, strawberry, and pistachio maybe.
to sample some of their famous macaroons.
This is the Marie Antoinette.
That's a Marie Antoinette.
I
That's
must.
perfect for you.
A shining example for visitors.
Tell me what's wrong with what I see here. I think it's gorgeous.
But Jamet says, to Parisians, it's lost its luster.
We don't know if the avenue is still the most beautiful avenue of the world. That's the nickname, that's the reputation of the avenue. And probably that's not true. Maybe the avenue is a little bit dated, a little bit sad. Probably the avenue is not very clean. And we believe that the avenue is almost sick, and we have to do something together.
He says the avenue is overrun by tourists and cars, creating air and noise pollution, evident from high above.
We hear it now.
That's very noisy.
That's bad.
That's bad.
Measuring just over a mile along the Seine River, originally created out of the forest by Louis XIV's gardener, the access road would become a route to his palace in Versailles. Over centuries, the avenue grew in stature, with monuments popping up at both ends.
You have an Arc de Triomphe just behind me. You have an obelisk coming from Egypt just behind you. You have the palace of the kings of France, Le Louvre, just behind you, the biggest museum of the world. You are really in the very middle of the historical part of Paris. That's the reason why this avenue is so charming. That's also the reason why we want to keep this avenue charming.
In 2019, Jamet's committee commissioned a study to determine how best to re-enchant the Champs-Elysees.
That was quite a hot question. Re-enchanting an avenue.
Architect Philippe Cambretta was tasked with sketching out a plan. But first, he needed to brush up on how we got here.
You obviously knew much of this history before working on this project.
Not at all.
Really?
Well, I knew what most Parisians know about the Champs-Elysees, blah, blah, blah.
Louis XIV.
Yeah, but very little. It forces me to really look at this history in detail that very few people know.
In the 19th and much of the 20th century, he says, the Champs-Elysees was iconic, a symbol of modernity.
The first subway in France was built below the Champs-Elysees. Then the car started to appear, and it was a happy story for many years.
But by the 1970s, cars took over the road. Luxury brands, many American, made it a shopping mecca. And its 30 acres of public gardens became less and less desirable for locals.
On that view, from the top of the Arc de Triomphe, well, you see the avenue I could be tomorrow.
Cambretta spent years sketching out a new future.
I think people know of this section of the Champs-Elysees because that's the section where all the shops are.
Yeah.
They don't think of this, the park, as being an extension of the Champs-Elysees.
You're absolutely right. And today it's completely empty.
Completely.
Completely. That's like we discover a black hole in the city of Paris. One direction and one direction.
Now, modernity means reducing car traffic from 6 lanes to 4 adding a dedicated lane for taxis and deliveries, and expanding sidewalks and bike lanes.
And in the garden, we propose to create a series of small kiosks that you could have small restaurants, you can have also, art gallery.
The plan takes advantage of existing trees.
The trees on the Champs-Elysees are cut in a very classical shape.
The additional shade they will eventually provide can keep pedestrians cool as global temperatures rise.
You just let them grow.
You let them grow, and you create some
Canopy.
You create a real canopy, which is not existing.
Keeping people safe from the sun and their social media impulses.
You see today a lot of the tourists.
Yes.
They go in the middle of the avenue to
Instagramming.
Instagram, and they
want
almost
the
get
pic-
killed.
Yeah.
So it's the most dangerous place in Paris here.
Yes, it is.
Here we propose something just to have a special place where you can go there and take your picture there. So it's not very complicated. It's just adapting to the today's world.
It's an idea Kim Bretta has shared with counterparts in the U.S. concerning places like New York's Fifth Avenue and Philadelphia's Benjamin Franklin Parkway.
We look at it not as a local issue. We looked at it as a very interesting symptom of a global issue that we wanted to tackle.
The report, released in May, now goes to the voting public, who will decide if the roughly €250 million in improvements is worth it. You have to convince them that this is the wave of the future. It cannot go without it.
That we try to do 24 hours a day. That's what we try to do 7 days a week. That's what we try to do 12 months a year. Champs-Elysees is the window of Paris. If you don't modernize the window, you will lose all the tourists, you will lose all the Parisians, and that's maybe a problem.
They've given them a slight taste, about €30,000 spent on patio terraces. Those improvements, they're hoping to entice folks to say, hey, let's get on board.